joining from different part of the globe. My name is Noor Basha, Senior Marketing Manager at Winwire Technologies, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. As most of you know, we are hosting a weekly webinar on .NET, Visual Studio, AngularJS, Azure Services, every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So last week we just concluded one of our first webinar on ASP.NET, and today's topic for the session is getting started with Visual Studio 2015 and C# 6.0. So before we get started, let me highlight few housekeeping items. During the webinar, please feel free to post questions and we will try to answer as many as we can at the end. Recording as well as the slides will be made available to you in next 24 to 48 hours. So before we get started, let me introduce you to today's presenter, my colleague, Mr. Amit Dubey, who is the Director for Cloud and Mobility Vertical at Winwire Technologies, and he has over 15 years of experience in the IT industry. He's also a Microsoft Azure certified developer. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Amit. Amit, over to you.
Thank you, Noor. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday webinar series from Winwire. So today's topic is getting started with Visual Studio 2015 and C# 6.0, which is the latest version of the language. And myself, as Noor introduced, I'm Amit Dubey. I'm the Director for Cloud and Mobility Business at Winwire Technologies, and I'll be walking you through this session today. Let's look at the agenda. First of all, I'll introduce you to Visual Studio 2015, what are the different editions available, and then we're going to talk about some new features that are available in 2015. Moving on, we'll see C#. We look at what are the new features that are available in C#, the latest version 6.0. And then I'm going to present you a small demo where I'll showcase some of the features that we are going to talk about in the next few slides. And in the end, we'll open it for question and answer. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type in the chat window in your GoToWebinar, and then I'll answer as many as I can before we close this. With that, let's get started. So what is Visual Studio? I'm sure many of you have been using it over the years. So it's a development environment. It's an IDE, what you call. So it provides you various options to like build Windows applications, web applications, Windows Store applications, and recently like you have been able to develop a lot of other things like mobile applications. You can build cross-platform mobile applications with the help of Xamarin or Apache. So it has grown over the years, and it has a lot of things today under one umbrella called Visual Studio. So Visual Studio 2015 is the latest version of the IDE. There are 3 different editions that you can install. The first one is the Community Edition. So this is the free edition that is available for people to try out the different features in Visual Studio. It's free for students and developers and anybody who wants to try out Visual Studio. The next version is the professional version, which is available at a nominal price. So it's suitable for like small teams or individual developers who are working on customer projects. The other one is the enterprise one. So the enterprise grade has all the features that are available in Visual Studio. So it's usually for corporates and larger teams, or if you're working on any advanced projects like complex projects, or using advanced testing technologies or DevOps, so or gaming, you could go for Visual Studio Enterprise. But if you really want to just try it out, see the different features, get a feel of it, I think Community Edition is the best one. So you can download that and install it for free, and start working on Visual Studio. So those are the 3 editions that are available for you for Visual Studio latest version 2015. So let's talk about what are the new features that are available in 2015. So right from the setup. So the first step that you do is installing Visual Studio. So there itself you'll find many differences. So now with the custom installation, what you can do is you can pick and choose what you want to install, because there are so many features available, so you may not need all of them. So say for example, if you don't do C++ development, you may just uncheck that. So or you may not do mobile development, so you can remove that. So you can just select what you want to install from the umbrella and then just install that that part of it. So that helps in like speeding up the installation time. So you can quickly install depending on the components that you want. And if you don't install anything, that's not a problem. So at any later point of time, so you decide, okay, I want to start doing mobile development using Visual Studio. So you can always add those features. I mean, you can modify that. You can select mobile development using Xamarin and add it at any point of time. So it gives you that flexibility. So you don't have to reinstall the whole thing. So initially, you can just choose what you want and then keep on adding as you start developing. And the installation time is much lesser than, compared to the previous versions. You can sign in with multiple accounts. So earlier, in previous versions of Visual Studio, you could sign in with only one account. So if you had multiple accounts, like say for example, if you're having a personal Microsoft account with a live ID, and then you have a corporate account where you have all your access to your AD, Azure services, and all that good stuff. So 2015 allows you to sign in with multiple accounts. So and then when you're working on the project, so you can choose which account you want to work with, and then you get all the services available under that subscription. So you don't have to sign out and sign in again and again. So it allows you to manage different accounts, and you can use subscriptions for each of those accounts. And then you can build for multiple platforms, as I was talking about in the beginning. Now Visual Studio allows you to build cross-platform mobile applications using Xamarin. So Xamarin is basically a tool. It's a third-party tool. It provides you like capabilities of building mobile applications in Visual Studio using C#. So you can build iOS or Android native applications using C#. So if you install Xamarin plugin, you could do that, and you can target iOS and Android operating systems apart from Windows that is already available in Visual Studio. If you don't want to use C#, you can also go for Apache Cordova. That allows you to build again mobile applications using HTML, JavaScript. So again, you can target iOS, Android, Windows operating systems for that. You can build mobile games, cross-platform mobile games using Unity and C#. And then you can build libraries that are available across different applications using C++. So you can build libraries that can be used for iOS, Windows, or Android. So you could do that as well. And then there is Universal Windows apps. Not sure if you've heard about it, but these are the latest apps that you can use to build Windows 10 applications. So Universal Windows apps are apps that work for Windows 10 IoT and Windows 10 IoT Core. If you have attended any of our previous sessions on IoT, then you see that we have talked about Azure IoT Suite, and we have talked about Windows 10 IoT Core, how you can build applications for that using Raspberry or any other model. So you can build those apps. So Universal Windows apps are the one that run on Windows 10. So any version of Windows 10. It could be a device like a Raspberry, or it could be a full-fledged Windows 10 desktop. And then there is web development. As you know, like with recent changes in ASP.NET 5, which is totally a new way of developing web applications. So Visual Studio 2015 allows you to build applications with ASP.NET 5. If you again heard about it in our recent webinar last week, we had given on ASP.NET 5 like how it is different from previous versions. So you can do all that using Visual Studio 2015. Apart from all this, the good old things like classic desktop applications, the Windows applications, and Windows Store applications, you can always build that as well. So that's already there. So there are different platforms that you can target with this new version of Visual Studio, and then you can work based on your needs. So what additionally you will see is now that you're building for various platforms, various operating systems, various devices. So there is a new menu there, which is called as a device preview menu bar. So if you're building a UWP app, which is a Universal Windows app, you can see that you will get a preview of all the devices available for you. So these are the emulators that you can use. So you can get a 5-inch phone or a desktop or a tablet, So you get different devices available for you to work with. So the device preview menu actually helps you choosing which target device you want to work with, and you can test your application in various devices using that. Another important feature about Visual Studio 2015 is connecting to services directly. So you can add a connected service to your project. What that means is like it's more like a web service, but which is hosted on cloud. So say take for example Azure Mobile Service. So Azure Mobile Services are basically web services that have SQL as a backend, and that they provide offline capabilities to your mobile applications. So you can add mobile services. So if you build a Azure Mobile Service on your Azure account, you can add it to your mobile project, and then you can directly communicate using the mobile service. You can get the data, fetch the data, store the data offline, update the data, and do all that stuff using Azure Mobile Services. So it's mainly for mobile applications that you can add. And then you can also add the Azure storage services. Basically, say for example, if you have on your Azure subscription, if you have table storage or queues or blobs, you can access all of that by using Azure Storage Service. So you can add a storage service. You can provide your account details, and it'll add that for you. So once you add a connected service, what happens is like it'll add the web service. It'll add the authentication support that you need to connect and log into the service, fetch the data. It also installs all the required NuGet packages that you will need to work with it. So once you add the connected service, everything is there for you. I mean, you get all the NuGet packages, you get all the libraries that you need, you get all the authentication. So you don't have to write any code. So it's already there. All the libraries are available for you. You just have to instantiate some classes and start working on that. There are Office 365 APIs also available as a connected service. Basically, these are like, say for example, if you want to access your Active Directory information, then you can use those. If you want to access a document library in your SharePoint environment, you could also do that. Apart from these three, Salesforce.com is also available as a connected service. So say for example, if you want to pull your customer data into your project, you can add a service, connected service to your Salesforce.com account. So Microsoft has these three, and then there's Salesforce also that is available for you. So connected services actually makes your development much easier, consuming cloud services. And as we saw, you can work with multiple accounts. So whatever account you're signed in with, you can work with that, or you can switch to accounts pretty easily. Let's talk about the debugging and diagnostics improvements in Visual Studio. So there is performance tips that is available to you. So say for example, earlier, like when you debug a program, so when you're doing an F10, you write some code, you walk through it, step through it. So if you want to know like where are the bottlenecks, you have to run the profiler. Okay, you have to run the profiler to see like what statement is taking more amount of time in your code. So with Visual Studio 2015, you don't need to do that. So you will see that when you do an F10, right? So on the tooltip, it will show you how much time it has taken to execute that particular line. So you can easily find out as you debug. You can easily find out like which of the lines of code are taking most amount of time, and then you can fix it then and there. So that is the advantage of performance tips. It's a very useful feature. You don't have to go back and run the profiler, scan through it, and all that. So as you're debugging, you can see the performance of each and every line. The error list is more flexible now, so you can filter on any of the columns. You can filter based on error types and all that, and it gives you a live view of the errors, warnings, and code analysis. Code analysis is basically like if you have set up some rules for your application, and when you run the code analysis, it will give you all the warnings basically wherever you have missed those rules. So it will list you all that. So that is all available as part of your error list now. GPU usage basically more useful for gaming and other applications that you're building. So if you want to check the GPU usage for your application, you can do that by using GPU usage tool, and then see whether your CPU or GPU is taking a lot of resources, and then you can optimize based on that. So these are some of the techniques that you can use for debugging and diagnostics with Visual Studio. Light code analysis, light bulbs. This is one of my favorite features of Visual Studio 2015. So what happens is like with the Roslyn compiler, it not only compiles your code quickly, but it also gives you scenarios where you can make some improvements. I mean, you can correct your code as you type. So it will give you feedback and suggestions, like if you're doing something wrong. So take for example, like you've seen the diagram here, I declared a variable called system.string s, and on the left hand side you see a light bulb. Now if you take your mouse over that, it will tell you like what you can change here. So it will say simplify name system.string. What you can do is you can declare just as a string. You don't have to call it system.string. So that is just a very basic example, but it will give you a lot more insights into anything that can be corrected. So if you have code analysis on, if you're missing any rules, you will get it then and there. So you don't have to run code analysis at the end of your project and then see where all you have to make changes. So this will help you as soon as you type. So if you declare a class that doesn't have the using, so it will give you that then and there. So it says that you have to add that using to your class. So it does all that stuff as you type. So as soon as you write a line, you see everything in that light bulb. So if you see the light bulb, you can just take your mouse over there and see what are the changes that you can make to improve your code. So it gives you a lot of suggestions and feedback like that. So it's a very very useful feature I found with Visual Studio. With that, we cover most of the things, most of the important things. I would say may not be the entire list of new things in Visual Studio, but it gives you a basic understanding of like a lot of things that have changed with that. Moving on, let's talk about C# 6.0, which is the latest version of C#. We'll see some of the new features that have been added to it. Again, it may not be the entire list of things, but some things that I've selected, which I believe are important that you should know. That will ease your development and save you some time. Let's start with auto properties. I mean, I'm sure many of you have used it over the years, like auto properties, where you don't have to declare a variable, like a backend variable, and then write a get and write a set. So you return the local variable in get, and then you set the local variable in set. So you just use an auto property, you just have a get and set, and it does everything in the background for you. Right? You have already used auto properties, which is available in previous versions. Now the only disadvantage with auto properties was that you could not initialize them in the beginning. So if I had to do that, then I had to either go in the constructor and then give a default value, or some place where I should provide a default value to it. Now with C# 6.0, you can directly give default value to the property. So say for example, if I have a name in the class customer, I have a first name, last name, I can provide a default value right after declaring the property. Say Jane Doe, right? That you have the default values for it. So you can do that straightforward. And this is not only applicable for properties with get and set, it is also applicable for read-only properties. So if you don't have a setter as well, you can still do that. Go ahead and do that. You don't have to have a local variable to achieve this functionality. So in the get, it was more difficult actually. You need to have a local variable. So it's much easier now. So you can have default values to your auto properties. I'll show you in a demo. Like I've created some code. I'll show you how to do that in actual Visual Studio after we're done with these slides. Again, important changes are like you can use lambda expressions to create functions. So say for example, if I want to create a function called move. Now in the first example here, the first line of code that you see, say public point move in dx dy, you are taking two parameters, and then you're taking the point and adding the dx and dy to the x and y coordinates. So this is more like a function in one line. So you use a lambda expression, you return a point by adding this dx and dy to the entry point, right? So you can use expressions on functions, and not only functions, you can have custom operators created. So say for example, if I have a custom class, if I declare a class and I want an operator for that class, what you can do is you can say public static your class name, the type, and then the operator, say for example plus, and then you give two objects, the input objects that you want to operate on, using this operator A and B, and then you write the lambda expression what you want to do with that operator. So I'm just adding those two objects here and then returning that value. So you can have custom operators using lambda expressions. Another thing is you can overload some of the typecasting methods. So here what I'm doing is I'm overriding the string function. So when you do a toString on this person class, what it does is it combines the first name and last name and returns to me as a string. So you can provide that functionality also using lambda expressions. So you can override some of the default typecast functions. And then there are expression bodies. So if you declare a variable called name, and if you want to use any of your two properties to initialize that, you can do that also. So many cases, you know that we have first name, last name, and we want to return a full name. So what we do is we create a property, we write a get, and in that get you write first name, return first name plus last name. Okay, you don't have to do all that now. So you just say public string name, first name plus last name, and you're done. So there is no get and no variable or anything required. So you can directly do that. And you can provide indexes to your classes. Now say for example, if you're having a list and you want to provide indexing to that list, so based on a primary key. So if I have a customer list and I want to return a customer depending on the ID that you're passing, if you want to provide an indexer for it. Otherwise what you have to do is you have to write a method saying get customer by ID, and then you use that ID to do your searching and then return that customer. Okay, you write a function. So you don't need to do that now. So what you can do is you can declare a customer a static method, a variable, and then you write this and you take the input as your integer or long, whatever it could be, your ID, and then you write the function that actually does the lookup for you, and then provide that using the lambda expression. So what this does is it actually does the search based on the ID that you're providing and returns the customer. So you have totally eliminated writing a function and then finish that whole thing in one line, right? So you can write expression bodies on property like functions. So these are more like properties. You're providing an indexer, and first one is more like a property itself, or the name one. More new features is like using static in the using statement itself. So take for example, if you're printing something in the console, so you always write system.console.writeLine and then you give the message whatever you want to print. So you don't have to repeat system.console all the time. So all you have to do is say using static and system.console, as you see as the first line of the code. And then once I do that, I can directly say writeLine in my code. I can say writeLine and then just print the message. So you can avoid writing system.console every time. So static members also you can use using now. System.math is another example where you want to use say rounding or truncate or any functions related to math. You could do that as well. So you can use any of the static methods that you use in using static now. Another thing is with extension methods. So you can use this in extension methods also using static. So if you see here, I'm using the where method in this range to actually get that. Some of the other new features is like null conditional operators. I mean, it would take a lot of time for me to put the example, so I've just written some new features here. Null conditional operators are basically like, say for example, if you have a nullable object, what you can do is you can just put a question mark and then try to get a value from it. So it will not throw you an exception if it is null. It will just return you a null. So you can check the null condition by just putting a question mark after that. String interpolation, like earlier, I have an example for this. I'll show it to you. String interpolation is like whenever you want to concatenate like 2-3 strings, you use string.format. You give brackets of 0, brackets of 1, and then you do that. So all that you can do it by using a $sign now. So you can simplify how you concatenate strings by using string interpolation. There is name of expressions. There is index initializers. Index initializers is basically say for example, if you're creating a dictionary, and if I want to initialize some of the values, say the 0 value, the 5th value, the 10th value, I can do it when I'm declaring the dictionary or an array. I can give the values for individual elements at that particular index and initialize those. So I can do that. Exception filters is basically like when you use try catch block, when you catch an exception, you can provide filters on your exception. So you can say filter the exception by a particular condition and then do this. So that is also possible. You don't have to catch again and again for different for different exceptions. And again, if you work with async await programming, you see that you can use the await in your try block, but you couldn't use await in your catch or your finally blocks. So now you can also have await on your catch and finally. You don't have to make them synchronous. You can have your catch and finally also asynchronous now. So let me quickly show you some code, some of the features that we have already talked about. So here you see first name, I've initialized it with my name. And you see name I'm using as like a combination of first name, last name. Now, again, like I talked about light bulbs, right? So I declared system.string my name is equal to this. Now you see on the left hand side I get this light bulb which says okay, you can change it, and it says simplify name, and if I go under that it will show me a preview of like what you can do, right? What you can change. So it is saying instead of system.string you can directly use a string there, right? So and I click on that and it does the change for me. So now it is converted to a string. String interpolation also I would like to show. So basically like this is your string.format that you used to have, string.format. Now I have a 0, 1 is so many years old, so I'm using name and age here. So basically it prints Amit is like 38 years old, right? Now in the new way, I would say dollar, my name is, it's like how you are writing it. So here you are using angular brackets, flower brackets to replace your name with the actual value of my name variable and the value of age variable here in the statement itself, right? It's not as complicated of using 0, 1, and then you have to count in the end that how many you have, 0, 1, 2, so you have to have 3 parameters in the end, right? Otherwise, again, that will be an exception. So all that is eliminated. You can just do it as you type. I mean, as you want to print it, you can write your string like that by using a dollar this thing. And again, you see I'm directly using write line. I did not say system.console because here at the top I'm using static system.console. That is another thing that we talked about. So okay, here having a function say get my name, I'm just saying return name, where name is again I have already initialized it to combination of first name and last name over here. So those are some of the things that I quickly wanted to show. We don't have much time. I mean, we're coming almost to the end of the session, but you can always try these out. I mean, the slides will be available on winwire.com within 24 hours of this session, so you can try all the different things that we talked about today. With that, I'll open it to question and answer. So if you have any questions, then please go ahead and type in the chat window, and I'll start answering those one by one.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks for the wonderful session and a quick demo. Yes, we do have few questions coming from the audience. The first one I would like to take is, does Visual Studio 2015 work side by side with 2013 or 2012?
Yes, the answer for that is yes. You can still have multiple versions of Visual Studio running on your machine. You can have 23 and 2015 together, or 2012 and 2015 together. Yeah, that works.
Great, thanks. Okay, so the other question is like, can you elaborate a little bit more about IntelliTest in Visual Studio 2015?
Yes, that's one of the recent features of unit testing. So it's one of the testing capabilities that have been added to Visual Studio 2015, the latest version.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Amit. I think those were the few questions coming from the audience. I'm sure there will be more where people can write their questions at marketing@winwire.com, and we will answer them offline. So just before we wind up, folks, again, I would like to highlight that we are hosting weekly webinars on different topics, and the next webinar for next Wednesday, that is on 27th Jan, is Azure Mobile Services for developing cross-platform mobile apps. So I hope you folks have enjoyed this webinar and look forward you joining us for the next webinar. Thanks, Amit. Thanks for the wonderful session, and have a good day.
Sure. Thank you, Noor. Thanks everybody for joining the session. We look forward to seeing you next week for the Azure Mobile Services. Thank you.
Thank you.